All right. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Recording is not configured for local recording. That's all right. All right. I'm just gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna test that the sound's working. Okay, that sound's not working, at least not locally. Let me turn that on and then run sound again locally. Huzzah! All right. And bum 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 bum. Okay. Uh let's see, what should I do here? I was gonna stream the other day and I went down some rabbit hole related to DNS. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get started because why not? Well, hello, and welcome back. So, last time, I'm pretty sure it was last time, I went to I was working on this. I was getting the TLS ALPN configured for the TLS router, which is a Let's Encrypt Acme challenge to be able to get certificates by way of just TLS, no HTTP port. Because what I'm going to do for HTTP is I'm just going to have everything redirect to HTTPS. I'm not going to have any HTTP. I'm not even going to do Let's Encrypt over HTTP. HTTP is just going to be really simple. It's going to take whatever the domain is and redirect it to HTTPS. So what happened was that Let's Encrypt was actually down. So this was July 22nd was the last time that I was on. I was on for just a couple of hours and ran into this weird problem. I thought it was something I was doing wrong and I was trying to debug it. And then it turned out, well, it was DNS. It was a problem with Let's Encrypt. It was a problem with their internal DNS service. So uh, anyway, the next day when I tried the same thing again, it worked. So it was the TLS outage was related to the problem I was having was related to the Let's Encrypt outage. Okay, so with that out of the way, we have the obligatory haiku. It's not DNS. There's no way it's DNS. It was DNS. And yeah, so I went in on libDNS and was looking through because I do want to use the DNS challenge most of the time. I don't want to be using the TLS ALPN challenge as much as I want to be using the DNS challenge. However, the reality is that the TLS ALPN is easier to work with because of the recent changes to libDNS about, I guess, 4 months ago ish, 2 months ago. All new record abstraction 4 months ago, yeah. So around May. Yeah, I think that's about the date. So basically most DNSs don't work anymore. Most DNS plugins don't work anymore with libDNS, which means they don't work with Caddy. And that's a pain in the butt. Also, in other news, yes, I'm down to nearly 50% of my Gmail usage, up or down from 92%, just by deleting emails that are older than basically near a decade old and older. Except they kept my very first email. my welcome to Gmail email because, you know, that's special. Anyway, that's unrelated. I did not get sleep last night, as in I actually didn't sleep last night. I accidentally stayed awake and I could not fall asleep. This has happened to me a lot in the last week where I've had a really hard time getting to sleep. So I'm a little discombobulated, but we're going to make this work. So, what I need to do here is get to the server where I'm going to be doing this thing. I think I call it TLS 2. Yeah, okay. So this is the server. Okay. All right, so this is important here. So this was, I don't know what this was. We need to figure out. I want to get this thing into production. That's my goal. So I need to figure out what's not working or what's not working well. Okay. So let's figure out what this was, because that's probably important. Okay. So last error we got was on line 1063. Obviously, that line doesn't exist anymore, but it was probably, I'm going to guess it was this that was what failed, which meant that back-end connection had not been established, which meant that, oh, okay. So I don't know which one of these I was looking at. I'm just going to close them out both and then start back up again. And then let's look here for how we were doing this. Okay, that looks about right. So let's see if we can get it to succeed or fail again. So I got ts3.bnna.net is a domain that is currently configured in the config file. And so all I want to do is hit that with, well, I don't think that that instance behind it is running, but we should be able to get the TLS and then get a bad gateway error. That's what I'm expecting out of this at this point. See. So let's go ahead and do curl. And I think what we want, sorry, let me get this up to a more reasonable size. So I think what we want here is HTTP 1.1. No, HTTP 1. All right, we'll just curl HTTPS -v, and it should come back. Yeah, it comes back with a certificate problem because we're still using the staging certificates, but we should have gotten back a 502 here. So did we get back a 502? Accept, completely sent off, empty reply from server, closing. That's not what I'm expecting. Although that might be all right. Oh, okay. So here we had a problem, and that our plane connection couldn't connect to a backend. And because there was no backend connection, tries to copy and it fails. So this looks about right. I should probably put this latest version on there. I don't know if there was anything more than white space changes, but let's go ahead and rebuild it. All right. There we go. And then let's TLS router. Bah. Really? Really? And let's see, where do we put it? In bin, I think. Yeah, all right. All right, so latest version copied over, good. Now let's just go cause that failure again. So we're gonna have it listen. Just gonna hit up, have it do the same thing. Empty reply from server because server fails. This time our stack trace should be different by a few lines, and it is. So that's good. So we can go look at that and set number. This time we see 1065. So that's where it failed. That makes sense. And I thought that we did something earlier. Let's see. Tunnel TCP con. Interesting. Okay, so it could be that PlaneCon doesn't exist. There could be multiple things wrong here. Let's see. BECon. Could there be? I think it's that BECon doesn't exist. The backend connection doesn't exist. I think that's why it's failing. So in that case, yeah, I think before we get here, we want to check on this. All right, let's try that one. So we're just going to let it, we're still going to let it die, but we're not going to have it, the program shouldn't crash. So network connection should still die pretty much the same way, except we're gracefully going to fail. Okay, request completely sent off. Interesting. Okay, that didn't go the way that I was expecting. So let's take a look at this again. Because what I was expecting was for it to fail instantly, but instead, whoops, what we saw is that it did not. So maybe we need this. So what is this con then? Con equals, so we got W con, plane con. What is con from? Con equals. All right. So con is all the way up here. Okay. So what we can actually do at this point is we could send back, for example, we'll do con dot write This is going to return two values, neither of which do we want. Okay, stop doing that. That's throwing me off. Okay, having the underline there. All right, so what we want to write is HTTP. Let's grok this for a second. Write a plain text HTTP 502 response. Boom. All right, cool. All right, /r/n /r/n %d. So we could do, whoops, bump.sprintf. And then we could put in there. And then we could put /r/n/r/n. And then we could put the message. I think that should do good. And then, of course, we need to wrap that in byte. So this really should look something more like this. And then we just wrap that like that. Boom. Okay. So if this is true, we've got if b_econ is not equal nil. Otherwise, return. Oh, what do we return? All of this. Okay, I kind of think that the handling for that ought to go right up here. Okay, and this is going to be an else. So really, what this should be is like that. Actually, we're just going to take this. All right, so this one is if it's equal to nil. No, if it's not equal to nil. So I guess, yeah, what I actually want to do is take this one, let this one be normal again. So just let this one be normal. And let this one say, okay, so if this is nil, then we've got a bad gateway. Oh, no. Hey, awesome guy. I did a quick sanity check on that. And the way that I did it was, you want me to say teapot together and just increase the speed over and over again. What you want me to say is potty. But I'm not ready to potty. It's only 12:29 p.m. Potty time comes in the evening time. That's when we bust out the lights and the dance moves. All right, so beacon nil, length of message, something, something. All right, tunnel TCP con. That's all good, right? That's all what I wanted. You said it. That's it. Thanks. Yeah. So, how much money did you win on that bet? All right. Bad gateway, blah, 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 blah. It just made me happy for no reason. Well, you're welcome. What's up, SB code? All right. Bad gateway. No active backend available. Okay. Do you want me to say backend again as well? Oh, whoopsie daisies. What? I don't know what I did. I don't know what I did. It popped up with a thing. And I was in the middle of typing. I hate this so much. I hate it so much. Typing, pop-up happens, and because I'm typing, whatever the default action was, whoops, there we go. I don't know what the solution to that is. Maybe there should be no pop-ups. It should all show up in the notification bar. I don't know. What is the solution to this problem? Okay, so now when we run the curl, we should still get request completely sent off, blah, blah, blah. I think that here we should have had the connection that terminated the TLS, right? So if terminate plain con, we're going to store the connection either way. See, maybe pressing enter should not dismiss a notification if the keyboard wasn't in use in the underlying app. Certainly the operating system has, well, at least nowadays, has the ability to track that state. Yeah, I think one way to go about it would be to debounce it such that it guarantees, well, yeah, but even debouncing it doesn't work because sometimes you're looking at the thing you're typing at and the pop-up happens somewhere else, and you should notice because you should see things dim, active, not active. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think that tracking the state should be doable. What's this language? This is Go. Okay, so debug 1, no terminate TLS. That's not it. Debug 2. Terminate the TLS. So put it in a pass-through mode. Wait, what's going on here? Proxy, okay. Oh, right. Because this is all... All right, so put it into pass-through mode. All right, so what am I doing? I'm writing a TLS router. So like a reverse proxy, but for at the TLS layer instead of at the HTTP layer. So just one layer up the network stack. All right, so it's going to do the handshake, blah, blah, blah. If backend equals nil. So there's two things. There's backend and there's backend connection. So we're going to do what needs to be done at the networking layer. And we're going to have plain con. So we should see one of these. We should see either plain con or and debug 1A maybe. Debug 1B. It's probably better. But we debug terminated TLS plain con. Okay. So we get to the plain con state, which means we're not going to get to this state. That's fair. And then HTTP tunnel inject. Okay. So we don't get there. All right, at the HTTP tunnel. Under what conditions are HTTP tunnel not equal nil? So if we've got a new listener, and what does that do for us? Okay, that's got a dialer with it. Okay, got it. So it doesn't have an HTTP tunnel. So if the backend connection is nil, then we want to put out a message, bad gateway, text plain, content length is whatever this number is, /r/n/r/n, and then the message. Now, I don't think that we have to end that with a /r/n because it's only going to read up to message. So, yeah, I get it. Just brainstorming. Yeah. Okay, done. Bad. Oh, if only I could type today. Bad gateway. Okay. All right, tunnel TCP con. What happens here? You just copy in both directions? So there's nothing too crazy there. So oh, right. Okay. That's what I needed to do. I needed to write this here on the plane connection, not on the TLS connection. Not on the raw net connection. Okay. So let's try this out. We're gonna kill that. We're gonna rebuild. We're gonna recopy. Should probably just get that in one step. We're gonna rerun. We're gonna retest. All right, boom, there we go. Bad gateway. Yeah, wonderful. So then the only thing that I might want to change here is to have a whoopsie daisies. Might want to have a new line in there because I like new lines. And then that would be a sufficient response. And then I would put some debug information here. So I would put some information, so like to do spec content type or HTML, JSON. That's some stuff that I'd like to have here. And yeah, that's good. And with that out of the way, what do I have to do next? Oh, staying up all night is wearing on me. I did not mean to do it. It was an accident, but I did it. I stayed up all night. I did. It was a mistake that I made. I did. Part of it is that my wife is having trouble sleeping, or I don't know if trouble sleeping is the right word. Yeah, it kind of is. Anyway, so it makes me have trouble sleeping. Because, or I guess not really, she has changed her sleeping habits. Yeah. And that, like, okay, I don't get my half of the bed. That's what I'm saying. Right now, I'm not getting my half of the bed. And I need my half. When I'm going to sleep, I need my half of the bed. I need cold air on both sides. I need my half of the bed. But then last night, I don't know if I would have gotten to sleep anyway. And my audiobook wasn't loaded, so I couldn't listen to my audiobook because usually you can't fall asleep without listening to something. But I ended up listening to those YouTube videos. They were only like 15 minutes long, so they weren't long enough for me to actually fall asleep. Yada, 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 yada. Yeah, anyway. So now I'm kind of... Yeah. But anyway, we're gonna continue on as much as I can here. All right. So maybe I should do this is the way that I had it before. Okay, let's go back to inverting this. So we're going to bring this back up here. It's in the same location it was in before. And I'm going to bring this here. So if we have a backend connection that's not null, then we could do this. If we do have a backend, the backend connection could, let's see, it wouldn't be null. The HTTP tunnel is mostly for the internal stuff, I think. So I'm not sure whether or not does BEcon get set? Okay, HTTP tunnel. Under what circumstances the backend connection gets set? That's what I need to know. All right, this is proxy, so that's not what we're focused on here. All right, let's see. Let me just make sure this is all the same function. No, wait. This does have TCP tunnel, blah, 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 backend, and B. TCP tunnel equals nil. Okay, so there and there. So HTTP tunnel is just the admin tunnel right now. Okay. Let's see. Proxy proto is 0. Is raw TCP. Backend is equal to B. Is this correct? Although I was going to get BEcon. Actually, the current behavior is better than what I'm seeing here. Because this one, we could provide a bad gateway error, but the way that I'm reading this says that we wouldn't. Okay, let me go back up here. How far are we? So this is proxy. Okay, that is our function. This is our main function here. Okay, yeah. So in our proxy function, we're going to get the backends. We're going to go through them. And if there's no HTTP tunnel and there's no proxy protocol, then it's raw TCP. But if there is proxy protocol, I don't understand. I don't understand why I did that there. That doesn't quite make sense to me. Oh, because I'm going to wait to do the proxy protocol stuff. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Let me go check on proxy proto. Proxy proto. Right to BEcon. But that doesn't look right because it looks like this would fail. We men, we like cold air. We're hot-blooded creatures. Women are cold-blooded. Everybody knows it. What's up, Denna? All right. I don't know what I was doing here because this does not make sense to me because we don't set BEcon. Is BEcon set elsewhere? So it seems like even here, we still need to set BEcon, do we not? I'm going to double check that again. Proxy proto. Okay, if either of these happen, then it needs to do that. And how did we decide terminate again? It's going to do the connection handshake. If backend is equal to nil, the TLS Acme protocol. If backend is equal to nil here, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think I got my logic partially incorrect somewhere along the line. Okay, no. Here it is. Here it is. So if we're not terminating, and BEcon is not or is equal nil. Wait. I think we want that the other way. It's not equal nil. Yeah, okay, I get what I was doing. I just added that just now. So that was not messed up before. Okay. All right. So I'm a little confused still because it seems like that backend connection should have been updated before. Let me is raw TCPcon. If it's a raw TCPcon, then we didn't get the backend for some reason. Okay. This logic, unfortunately, this can't be simplified while using the standard library. Or obviously there's a different way to arrange it that could be simpler, but the complexity of the state management is due to the TLS parser that's part of the standard library can only be used in a stateful way. It cannot be used on its own against a sequence of bytes, at least as far as what I looked at a couple weeks ago. And so we end up having to check some stuff up in the TLS handshake that's happening asynchronously. It is resolved before we get here, but it gets resolved at this moment, right? Where was it? Right here. So all the stuff that's happening in all this handshake, that all happens here, and so we have to set this state above based on what happens inside of here, based on the handshake. So it does the handshake. And I'm just gonna read this out loud again. Okay. So let me just go kind of topish here. All right, we're checking to see if there is an SNI LPN config. And if there's not, then we do some stuff. Okay, where are we getting backends again? So, okay, we're gonna, that's different. All right, track mismatch. Okay, so we're gonna check to see, do we have a config by SNI ALPN? If we don't, then we're going to find one. And we're going to find one that might be DNS or might be TLS ALPN, is what I'm seeing here. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. Pass through. Why would pass through only happen once there? Okay, that's part of the happy path stuff. Okay, so really I need to be looking a little bit further up here. All right, so we're trying to figure out, do we have a config for this? And then I'm not sure why the pass-through is happening here. Oh, it's because we're returning a config. Got it. Okay. So wait, though. If this gives us our config, I'm pretty sure we still want to do this, don't we? No, that's only if... Hold on. Track mismatch. So much da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, something's wrong here. Let's just try running this again. Is this still running? Let's run this again. Still work the second time and the third time. Okay, yeah, it still works. All right. Trying to figure out what my code means. The original plan was to do this in just a couple of days, but then it ends up being a couple of days every couple of weeks. And, you know, that's not good for being able to remember where I was at. Okay, so this is the admin stuff. So if it gets down here, it's going to be handled by the admin config, I think is what we're saying. Okay. Yeah, it's just all nasty mix match state. Okay. So we figure out what the config is. And we will get a config. Because if we don't get a config, then we're either going to error out or we're going to handle it as admin stuff. Got it. Okay, so at this point, we're guaranteed to have a config. And then we print out whatever the backends are. So if we look at this, we should see something about the backends. Let's see. What is it? MCFG backend. Okay. MCFG. All right, so here we are. So we see the backend. It's being printed out. That's the address that it should connect to. Blah, blah, blah. Should terminate TLS. It's not going to use proxy protocol. Blah, blah, blah. All right, great. I'm on board. So we just print out what the backends are. And then we're going to go through the backends. All right. And right now we're not supporting a dynamic number of backends. That'd be a config change. We'd swap the whole config. But we're not at that point. Okay. Or maybe we are. Maybe we already have that implemented. I don't know, actually. We may already have that implemented. Anyway, so we're going to do simple round robin where we load and we do a compare and swap if it's a particular number. Okay, this is all atomic operations. Okay. And then we have this thing where we're checking, is it a tunnel? So if it's not a tunnel and it's not, doesn't need proxy protocol, then it's raw TCP. But what I don't understand is why we're not doing this. Why are we not getting the backend connection right here with that? Why are we just saying, okay, well, we found the backend, and then good luck, have fun, we break? I'm confused by this. It doesn't seem to make sense. I think there's a typo here. I think maybe one of these should be the other. I don't know. Because it seems like the backend should be set. Yeah. Raw TCP. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what that's supposed to be. Because to me, let me go take a look at get backend connection, see what that does. Maybe get backend connection is doing some sort of reverse proxy thing. I don't think it is. I think get backend connection is just dialing. Yeah, it's just dialing. That's all it's doing. So I really don't understand what this is here for. Because the sense that I get is that it just didn't even try to get a backend. So I would do something like this, I would think. I say, okay, we're going to get to do mark as inactive and try next. But what we're actually going to do let's see. If error not equal nil, then BEcon equals BEcon, and then break. I mean, we could log somehow that, yeah, this is what happened, but there's nothing for me to do with it. So let's just log that for now. Still fprintf os.standard error. Yeah, I don't think that this is right at all. Because this says raw TCP, but we've already established that we're going to terminate this, right? Let's see. So if not terminate TLS, then we return the error do not terminate, but that's not really affected by this. All right, so I actually like what we're doing here, where we say, okay, Okay. I think we want to select the back end either which way, right? Oh, I see what's going on here. So ideally, we want to select the back end at the same time as the other mabob. But realistically, right now, we're not doing that. So let me just throw in here, just comment that out for now. Yeah, this does not feel right. Let me go look at the proxy proto thing again one more time. Proxy proto. So I'm going to create all this, blah, 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 blah. But this still has the backend connection. Okay. So yeah, I really like, I think this is just one of those things where through the few sessions I've worked on this, where we're doing, 2 weeks across at a time, I just got to a point where I messed some stuff up. So this is what I think this was supposed to be. I think it was supposed to be like this. I don't know. I really don't know what it was supposed to be like, but this just doesn't, the logic doesn't make sense to me in the current form. So I kind of want to change it to be what I think it ought to be, because I don't trust the wisdom of my former self while I'm reading this. It looks like this comment is still relevant. Uh, okay. All right. Wait. Do I know what's going on here? The only case I can think of is this. Like, if the tunnel is not equal to nil, meaning if we have the tunnel, then we can just set the back end and we can break. That is true. Now, this stuff about the proxy protocol, I don't know how that's relevant. I think I'm just going to get rid of all that. This is raw TCP thing, I think it's just wrong. So I'm just going to get rid of it. And then for right now, we are going to have this backend. All right, so we're going to set the back end. And we're just going to break in every case. Yeah, the surrounding loop is unconditionally terminated. Yeah, that's okay. Whoopsie daisies. What happened there? Okay, good. The linter didn't check it that far. There we go. Kind of a stupid thing to do. I could probably put in a linter exception or something, but oh well, this is what I'm doing. Okay. All right. So this one, I think this is more correct. So basically, if we're using the tunnel, and I can't think, is there a reason that we'd want to use the proxy protocol with the tunnel? I don't think so. Because the tunnel is going to get the real connection information, the internal tunnel. Okay. But let's, for good measure, we'll just set BEcon to nil there. Just to be explicit. All right. All right, so here we want to get the backend connection. And yeah, we're going to set the backend here. All right, we could just do it this way here. I think maybe. All right, so I think that fixes my problem where the backend was ending up nil by mistake. Now it will end up nil on purpose, and we should also see this message printed out, could not connect backend. All right, let's see what else this is complaining about now, if we can. Okay, where was this at? Cut prefix. Is that true? That kind of seems silly, but whatever, we'll use it. I mean, I guess it makes sense. You cut down the number of comparisons. Okay, whatever. New thing. We'll use it. When was this added? Go 120? Okay. I guess the linter just updated recently. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this again. And I'm expecting the exact same results, except that this time I'm expecting a little bit different debug print. So here, that's the same. Let me try that yo. Do the next thing. Let's see, do the next thing. See, I wrote that when I was tired. That's very descriptive. Do the next thing. All right, so ultimately, these BEcon checks won't be as effective because the backend, it seems like the backend probably should just have a placeholder. No, because it's because of the state. Yeah. I guess the backend should have a connection tester and connection getter or something like that, but yeah, maybe not. Okay, handle is selected backend. All right. Okay, we do have one more potential problem here. Okay, I guess not. So I guess what I would want ideally would be that if all the backends are dead, but any of them have enabled termination, that we would use that one to terminate the TLS. Okay, there we go. So let's go ahead and compile this again, and then copy it over, and then rerun it. Boom. Okay, now it's hanging when I would expect. Oh, wait, what happened there? Did I get something wrong? Okay, connection left intact. Bad gateway. Why did that take so long? Because it had to time out the connection. That's why it took so long. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Maybe we could make that timeout shorter, because it should accept a connection almost immediately. Depending. There is a situation in which that wouldn't be true, which is if we're proxying out to another external service. Timeout. Fallback delay. I forget what that one means. All right. Couldn't do it because it's still open. All right, then we'll run it again. And then we should see pretty much instant response. There we go. Good. All right, cool. Well, that's what I wanted. All right, and then we got a done because all right, now if I bring that back up, now I've got other problems that I have to deal with, which is that when I connect to that, that one does need to be connected via HTTPS. I don't know if we have anything to handle that yet. Okay. Tunnel TCP connection, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so we actually have another layer of BEcon that we might have to deal with. Which, yeah, I think I've got it in the config file, but I don't have a way to handle it yet. Which, let's see, TLS.json. Yeah. So connect TLS. I don't think we have that handled yet. Connect TLS. Connect TLS. Yeah, we don't yet have a way to handle that, do we? Oh wait. Target URL back in HTTP tunnel. Oh wait, hold on. This music's too soft. I don't think anybody can hear it. I can only hear it if I turn it way up. So the next one's gonna be way too loud. All right. So we got this here. So the HTTP tunnel is not just for the admin interface, or is it? Okay, what is this? What am I on about here? New listen config. Okay, no, that's not relevant. Matchers, backends. If it doesn't terminate TLS, then don't worry about it. Okay. So yeah, it's not just the admin interface here. Okay, I think I'm starting to see something. So, all right, if we're going to use the tunnel. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Okay. So there's more that the HTTP tunnel is not just the admin tunnel. Okay, okay, okay. Okay, so technically, all right, I see what I was doing there. I see what I was doing there with the raw TCP. Because even if it has a tunnel, if it's using the proxy protocol, you can't use the tunnel. So proxy protocol takes priority over the tunnel. Okay. So that was just that this is a better logic, but now I understand why the old one was there. Because the tunnel is not just the admin tunnel. We already implemented this connect HTTPS kind of stuff, kind of sort of. So let me go back to where that was defined in the first place. Yeah, there it is. Connect TLS. Okay. There, and we are using this connect and secure. Okay, so that's already been set up. Okay. All right, so if it uses a tile, we still need to test to see if the backend is a good backend. All right, so could not connect to backend. All right, I see, I see. All right, so we're always going to try to get the back end and test that we can make a connection. And then if we use a tunnel, then we shouldn't have to change that there. If p con not equal nil, we just close it. Okay, got it. So that's a little superfluous. I probably don't want to do that every time. But I'm not sure where else we'd go about this. Oh. My music got too loud again, didn't it? Sorry. I warned that that might happen. Okay. Oh, so bad working on projects spaced out like this. Because I'm only going to be working on this for 2 hours today. The first 2 hours is just catching up on what I did last time, but hopefully I'll work on it a little bit tomorrow as well. So I don't lose my place again. All right. So we're back. We're back in the spot where if I've got this correct, this should work with either configuration for this thing. So we should be able to use HTTP, get a bad gateway. That's good. And we're going to see debug, plain con, handle with selected backend, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm going to change the oops, not there. Okay. I'm going to change the config file that we're looking at. Config.json. I'm going to go look at TS3. We got this terminate TLS. It's true. Connect TLS equals false, blah, blah, blah. So that can work, but we can also connect to 443 and we can say connect TLS is true, connect insecure is true. So let's try this out and see if this one works. We should get the same response. Bad gateway, excellent. Actually, I'm not sure if that's excellent. All right, proxy protocol. Are we using proxy protocol? I don't think we are. Let's double check that again real quick. Label, services, domains. This is the right one, right? ALPNs. Yeah. Okay. Whoa. All right, so I'm getting some output that I wouldn't have expected. I think. Handle with selected backend. Okay, let's just go check where that is. Handle with selected backend. So backend's not nil. All right, so this is where I'm confused again. This should have been set, I would think. Did I do something like force plane or something like that? ALPNs. Connect TLS, connect and secure, terminate TLS, port address, blah, 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 ALPNs. Okay. HTTP 1.1. Is there something wrong with that? H3. I don't think we had proxy proto on there. Let's just look again. Proxy, no. Whoops. Proxy proto's not on here. Okay. So we're all good there. So what went wrong? Okay, so this was set up at the beginning. Mm. Wait, is backends a pointer? No. So any change here made to backend is not going to persist. Let's see if we've got anything that modifies the backend other than this right here. Okay, there we go. That's where that wasn't working. I'm going to do bindex here. I'll call it BE index. All right. Yeah. Following the rule that the further away it is from the declaration, the longer the name should be to avoid potential confusion. So that's 100 lines away. So we're going to do it. All right. So let's try that. And now we should be getting a different error. Similar, but different. Okay, we still get a bad gateway, which is good. Maybe. Okay, what's not good is I'm still not seeing that message that I'm expecting to see. Debug will terminate. Okay, this doesn't seem right. Yeah, this doesn't feel like a continue. As much as an else. Okay, what went wrong here? So if it has a DNS config, oh, I see where I messed up here. I was trying to, so yeah, this has a condition that enable domains, if not exists. So issuer conf map. So if it doesn't have DNS config, I didn't want this condition to fall through. Oh, maybe was that this was supposed to be inside of there? Ah, it's so frustrating. Yeah, because we don't want to fail this. We just want to print the failure. We'll terminate TLS for specific config. Issuer conf map, Acme conf. Ugh. All right, so there's no way that this could not have a DNS config and need to execute this code. Those are mutually exclusive. Okay. All right, I'm going to copy this over. So the difference here, the thing that I'm changing is that there's a condition that I had to add last time for the TLS ALPN negotiation for Let's Encrypt. Previously, before that, I had already implemented the DNS negotiation, And when I implemented the TLS ALPN negotiation, I was exiting out of a loop early that I shouldn't have been exiting out of. And I'm still a little confused as to why I had written it the way that I did. But I'm pretty sure that those things were mutually exclusive, because when I had that continue down here at the bottom, it meant there was no way for it to get to this. So I didn't need an else if. But now we do need an else if. Ugh. Because either one of these conditions is going to execute or the other one may execute. What's up, David? Okay. So now I think I'm going to get the different. Okay, backend inject. So, problem is, okay, good. Closed, bad gateway? Yes, excellent. So we probably want that gateway timeout to be a lot faster in that case as well. So we know if it's in the local case, it's on the local network, we know we want it to be fast. But even if it's potentially external, we still want it to be relatively fast. So for now, I'm going to try to get that HTTP tunnel down to, let's say, 1 second. All right, target, rewrite, blah, 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 keep alive. So I think we basically want to take TLS handshake timeout. Yeah, 10 seconds is way too long. Well, I guess it isn't, because it could take that long with the let's encrypt round tripping. So hold on a second. I have a friend, he has a very bad infection after sitting too much in front of a screen. Itches a lot. Yeah, I don't have an infection. It's more like a nervous habit right now. But I probably do sit in front of the screen too much, and I have poor skin health because I don't get enough time in the sun. So I do suffer a little bit from poor skin. I think that is a real problem for people that sit at a desk all day. And maybe circulation problem too, perhaps. But yeah, the fact that I've been scratching the back of my neck, I actually don't even have an itch there. It's just a psychological thing. It's like scratching the chin. I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing it exactly. Except the it's getting hotter in here. All right. So with this dialer, I don't want it. I don't. Let me go check get. What do I call it? Get whatever. I call it get something. Equals get backend con. I do have a little bit of itch on my scalp though. Plus 10 IQ per scratch. No, I don't think so. My Vim theme right now, I don't know. I think that it's probably the same as my terminal theme. So I think it's Dracula. Let me see what my terminal theme is. It does not show me. Okay, that's Dracula. That's Elemental. That's Firewatch. Okay, it looks like Firewatch. There's Hiva Cruz, Tomorrow Night, Toy Chest, Ubuntu, Cyberpunk. So, pretty sure it's Firewatch. Sofa King, great for posture. Oh, I love the sofa, man. What is fallback delay? I think that's the time before it tries the next IP address in the DNS record. Oh. Yeah, I think that fast fallback delay would need to be lower. All right, so here where we're setting this thing up, is it the dialer? Yeah. Dialer needs all this stuff. Keep alive config. Local adder. To do make user configurable. Okay. All right, so now we should see a much faster 502. So now we should see a little less than half a second. Boom, that makes sense. All right, content length is nothing. Great. All right, we're well on our way, folks. And let's just make sure we can do this again and again and again. I need to cache the inactive status or something. Add to block list and restream chat. Yep. Okay. I don't know what a sofa. Ha 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 ha. This like lazy boy. Okay. You got me on that one. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, normally I mean it made sense, right? Like normally when people try to get me I don't know. They probably could try to get me say stuff all the time. But I think that the syllables on that one. Hold on, let me go say it to myself real quick. No, I don't know. I know that, you know, you throw in the F word in there, which, come on, man. But I I don't get what the rest of it is. But I'm thinking like lazy boy. Like I'm thinking like you're the king of the sofa because I am one of those as well. But anyway, what's up, Terrace? Nice to see you on my usual Twitch watch time. Oh, cool. Indeed. I have many more to keep this entertaining. Oh no. Uh let's not have look, we've had some hells and dams, but in country music, we just don't say the F word. However, pho, the soup dish, there have been some awkward moments with that. There is a restaurant, which I'll call it pho for the purposes, I'll mispronounce it as pho, but there is a restaurant called the Pho King. And there's another restaurant that's not too far away from it that is the Pho Queen. But the correct pronunciation of it is pho. Yeah, anyway. All right, great. Thank you. All right. So now we're finally to a point where things are good ish. And what I have to do next is I'm going to have to go through the caddy file and I'm going to have to convert everything over and just start running some stuff. I also, well, let me go ahead and start up that service. It's currently down. It's probably going to take it 30 seconds or so to boot up. I'm going to see if I can find it here under, if I search TS3. Whoops. Wait a minute. This is up. I probably have the wrong IP address for it or something. I'm going to go TS3 dot. Okay, let me go on the console and see what's going on here. Is the network stack actually up? Okay, network stack is up. So let's do this. I'm just going to change this config file. The IP address that it's actually at is 145. And then the other ones, it doesn't really matter, but I'll just go ahead and change them for the moment. Okay. So test service is at 145. All right. It's giving me bad gateway, but it shouldn't. I don't think that should be timed out. Okay, where are we at here? Oh, they might be on different networks. What network is this one on? Okay, they're on different networks. Now this one should be able... I'm going to check some stuff here. All right, let's see. Do we not have... Hmm. Okay, I gotta check on another server and see how its network is configured. All right, what is its default route? I think we have the route set up manually. Yes. It's probably what I need to do here as well. Okay, so we need to go Etsy, network, interfaces, and we need to set 242. All right, now I'm just going to need to restart this. I think I'm on Alpine, right? Yeah, so what do I need to do to restart networking interfaces on Alpine? RC service. I'm going to have to do RC service network restart. Networking. Okay. So question, can I ping that now? Yeah, I can. Okay, great. All right. Problem solved. Okay. All right, let me get back to the comments here. What's my go-to country music? I listen especially well when I'm on stream I listen exclusively to video game music because OC Remix is licensed for streaming, although I still get tagged in every single stream regardless. Nothing I can do about it. Wait, you just said you try to keep it non-vulgar. And then all of these are vulgar. Uh, I just listen to country music on the radio when I'm in the car. Uh, I like 90s country because that's what I grew up with. So, be Tim McGraw, Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks, uh, Rascal Flatts, Jody Messina. I also like some of the 2000s country, Lady Antebellum, pretty good, but it's pretty mainstream. McGraw, Tim McGraw, pretty mainstream country. All right, cool. So now, what do we got here? Location, UI. All right, that's probably going to be a redirect. Cool. All right. So this is working as intended. Now, if I want to break it, well, actually, I shouldn't even have to break it. I want to reconfigure some stuff here. So we're going to have one. Well, we're just going to swappy doodle these. Or say we're not going to connect HTTPS. We're going to connect HTTP. So I'm going to take this port back. And then run it again. Now, if I test it, it's still working just fine. Okay. So plain connection. Now, if I do this, I say, okay, we're actually going to connect on, well, first I just want to double check that that is working. It just seemed too easy. Oh, okay. Well, it worked. All right. So this should fail. If we do 443, connect TLS is true, but connect insecure is false, then when we run this, we should get a security error. And indeed we do. Failed to verify a certificate. Great. And so then if I go back in here and I say connects insecure is back to true, then we connect this, internal certificate works fine. Great. Okay, that's exactly what I wanted. So I think I'm going to go ahead and let's see, what was our diff in the README? Not much there. Okay. TLS router.go, get diff w cached. Actually, let me just handle this one all on its own. All right. Wait, what was this? It was okay, right? All right, that was just a minor thing. Sure. All right, stash pop. I probably could take that if else and put it into another if statement or something. I really do want to clean up this code. It's just, it's nasty, but I don't know what to do about it. Okay, so we got various logic fixes done. I actually got to go soon. We got a lot of logic fixes done here, so that's good. Okay, so the thing I'm working on, hold on, let me first finish up my commit and then I'll give a little recap again. But it's a TLS router. Okay, so debug closed. Connection, burr, 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 burr. Okay. Okay, fix. Uh, this is kind of hard to say what I've done. Uh, it was HTTP tunnel, backend connection, and what else? What else was in that? I handle 502. Yeah. Let's see what else we have. We shorten the timeouts. Oh, the way that I'm doing the 502 handling probably is not the best way to go about it in all situations. Whatever. That's good enough. Okay, so I'm working on a TLS router similar to a reverse proxy, but at the layer of the TLS. So TLS, so like with HTTP, you have the IP address and the port that you're connecting to at the TCP layer, and then at the HTTP layer, you have the host name. So when you're doing the TLS, you're connecting to an IP address and a port, but that information is abstracted away once you get to the TLS layer as SNI, server name indication, and ALPN, application layer protocol negotiation. So instead of the IP address of the TLS layer, just like host name, using server name indication, it's mostly synonymous. There might be some different rules about binary characters being handled differently or something like that. But UTF-8, I don't know, like real UTF-8 versus Punycode. I think you still do Punycode. I think it's pretty much one-to-one. Server name indication, pretty sure is one-to-one with DNS. It's supposed to be. You could, of course, abuse it. And Node does not have protection against that by default. Anyway, and neither does Go, actually, I don't think. So it's open. You could abuse it for, depending on what protocol you're trying to implement and what you're trying to do. And then the ALPN is a replacement for the port. So you say, oh, I want H2 or H3 or HTTP slash 1.1 or PostgreSQL or SMB or whatever protocol it is that it's going to go for. So this allows you to basically put all traffic over port 443, and then you have an infinite number of ports in terms of being able to do the network routing, because any application has its own application identifier. So rather than using the port number, you're using the application name, and then internally you can route that whichever way you want. And it can be routed in such a way that the encryption is handled or not. So, for example, if I go back in here, I could also say that we're not going to terminate TLS. So if I say that we're not going to terminate TLS, but we're going to connect on a TLS port, then when I go run this again, then I'm still going to get it back. But this time, the certificate that I'm getting that is invalid that I'm ignoring is not the Acme staging certificate. It's the self-signed certificate from TrueNAS, because that's the thing that I'm connecting to behind this is TrueNAS. Anyway, so yeah, there's the different modes of connection is what I've been focused on testing here, is that we either want to terminate the TLS at the TLS router, which the downside of that is that you need to implement the proxy protocol in order to get the true remote IP address and port number established. Or if you're doing it through HTTP, then, or a server that handles most reverse proxies at this point handle proxy protocol. So that's not too big of an issue, but depending on which protocol you're working with and what information you want to convey, you either got to use proxy protocol or was it Cloudflare? Maybe it's not Cloudflare. I don't want to attribute it to the wrong company, but there was a company that did something that was down at the kernel layer so that you could be running sudo and to get it set up, and it would actually mangle the packets so that, for example, SSH doesn't support the proxy protocol and SSH also doesn't support proper TLS. So you can instead tunnel SSH over TLS, but then have the TLS unwrapped and then use, I think it was called mtunnel. I don't remember what it was called. But anyway, you can use this other tool that if you operate it at a layer that it can interface with the kernel and it has privileges to do so, it can mangle the packets so that so the SSH sees the source address and the TCP packet as if it was the original. And that way your application firewall type stuff, your fail to ban, that sort of thing, still operates on the correct IP address. When you're doing it at the HTTP layer, then you're either going to use the proxy protocol, because like I said, most reverse proxies support that, which just puts the network information ahead of the HTTP information or the TLS information, if you want to leave it unencrypted. And then the other is you just put it in the HTTP headers like you're used to, and then trust proxy. So this is solving the problem that IPv6 is never going to catch on. IPv6 has some great use cases. They're internal, where you can control the network from end to end. If you cannot control the network from end to end, IPv6 is just a non-starter. And then, so everything's going to go over IPv4 for the next 20 years. We're not going to see IPv6 adoption, and the reason for this, I would cite, is just statistically, it's already reached the end of its S-curve. So it's already reached its limit. I just don't see it happening. I just don't see adoption for IPv6 because IPv4 is so good, and IPv6 doesn't solve the problems that the average person believes that it solves. I think network techs are generally more familiar with how IPv6 works, but I was under the impression like, oh, IP addresses for everybody, but that's not even the case. You can have a limitless number of individual IP addresses, but you don't get an endless number of networks. And so only the ISPs really benefit from IPv6. You as an end user don't benefit from IPv6. It doesn't solve any of the problems that you have in terms of, your Xbox connecting better, faster, stronger, right? So IPv4 is the past, present, and future. And TLS gives us what we really need out of IPv6, which is an arbitrary number of addresses to be able to work with. So I don't want to even be dealing with IP management, really. So I'm just gonna be incrementing IP addresses, but never accessing a server by its IP address. I'm gonna be dual registering it by a name and an IP address at the same time. And I know that there are also systems for doing that where you have external and internal DNS. But in my case, the way that I want to handle it is through the reverse proxy, and I'd have to figure out that anyway. So it's just, yeah, having a TLS router that does it is what I want to do. Okay. So, to make it interesting, the stream, and maybe ask some logic questions for me to guess. I'd like your engagement to grow. Well, thanks for that. I'm not really looking to grow the channel. It's just kind of a thing I do. I don't, like, if I get a few viewers, cool. I love having the conversation. I love, seeing familiar faces come back, but I'm not really a Twitch streamer or a YouTube streamer. I just happen to be somebody who codes and streams, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not going to get 10,000 followers or 100,000 followers. Like, I'm going to get a couple hundred, and that's going to be okay. I'm not looking to level it up or make it into something. If it happens organically, then it does, but it probably won't, because I just don't have the personality for it. And I don't solve the types of problems in ways that are friendly to the average person. So that's, you can come and hang out, but I don't see it becoming a growing channel. Can you give the strongest encryption to everyone? AES 128. AES GCM 128. I'll write that down for you. AES GCM 128. Anyone who really knows encryption, I believe, is going to give that as the recommendation. There's also Cha-Cha, which is equally good and better in some situations. Depends on how the assembly is compiled for the architecture that you're working on, which CPU you have, but they're pretty similar. There's some give and take on there. I don't remember what the Cha-Cha variant is, but AES GCM 128, and you shouldn't be using 256-bit encryption unless you have a reason to, and most of the time that reason is to make someone feel better, because mathematically you're talking about two magnitudes of infinity, but once you get to infinity, for practical purposes, having infinity times infinity, which is, or like infinity to the infinity power, you're not, in practical purposes, you're not actually increasing security by any measure. You're just using more CPU time. Because if something were to crack 128-bit encryption, it would also crack 256-bit encryption. Like, it would be a fundamental shift. Like, if quantum computers were real, for example, if there was any quantum computer on the horizon and there was a quantum computer that could break AES 128, it would probably also break AES 256, because it'd be operating on a completely different dimension of math. And so it's not like make it stronger, add more bits, doesn't really solve the problem. Plus, in trying to make 256 the way that they did, they weakened it. And so it doesn't even have the actual strength of 256, depending on some implementation details. Anyway, every possibility of letters, and see if those, I guess. What? I don't even know what you're saying there. Are you bypassing cert issues for local testing? So there is dynamic cert generation that you're not seeing. However, I'm doing it with a staging certificate, so it still gives validation errors. -K allows, so if I do this without -K, oh, it says it failed because the server's not up. Let me bring the server back up. So if I do this without -K, you're going to see couldn't get local certificate. But if I do it with -K, then it just trusts the certificate. So that's what's going on there. Uh, yeah, but I do, because I was having problems with Let's Encrypt, I didn't want to set it up with the real server. But now, let's see, where do I have staging? No. Let's see. I probably just baked it into the code for the moment. Let's see. Huh. I don't remember where I set this up. It might have been something that's not a string, but it's actually in the code. Oh, there it is, right there. Acme directory endpoint. So I could just rebuild this like this. Okay, production, there we go. So if I rebuild this now, then I will also need to remove my, is it going to be local share, TLS router, Acme. Okay, that's staging. So that one is staging. Okay, so if I just run this again with the updated stuff, what we should see is this is still going to fail because I think it right now in its current configuration. Oh no, maybe it's going to work just fine. Okay, yeah, there we go. So now I can get to it without using -k because now it's using a real Let's Encrypt certificate. Previously it wasn't. So anyway. The message you skipped was a continuation. Well, see, now I don't want to read your messages out loud because you're trying to get me to say naughty things. So manual hand nostrils. So that is not something that I have to worry about when we're talking about TLS. I don't have to worry about nonces. That is part of Go's TLS library. So I'm using Go, so there is no libsodium, there is no OpenSSL. Go implements everything in Go, which I think is a much better way to do it. I wish that every language would do that. I think that we would actually have fewer security vulnerabilities if languages implemented TLS on their own. I know that it's a big stack, but you don't really need to implement most of it. You only really need to implement AES GCM 128, AES GCM 256, maybe AES CBC, a couple of Diffie-Hellman and ECDH. Is that, yeah, the Diffie-Hellman? There's a whole universe of all the possible algorithms that you could use, but then there's the reality of what browsers use and what curl uses and what people who are somewhat security aware are going to limit the choices to. So you don't need to implement very many algorithms. Cha-Cha, AES, ECDH, and there's a lot of handshaky stuff, but you also don't need to implement anything older than TLS 1.2. If you just implement TLS 1.3, you're going to be fine. You know, if you think about, by the time you get your project in a state where it's got wide use or whatever, you know, these languages like Zig, Rust, Go, Node, whatever, you know, take your modern languages or your modern-ish languages. If they were to implement their TLS stack all on their own, one, we'd have more examples of how to implement the TLS stack. We'd have more things that could be cross-referenced. It would be, I think it would actually be easier to do security reviews. and some more common patterns would emerge, whatever. But yeah, I think that we have already seen that having too few implementations is actually a net negative. We need more implementations. Also, you're it's easier to have good security when the library you're using is from the language that you're using, because as soon as you have to cross language boundaries, C has a lot of constraints because it is, as they say, a high level language. uh so you don't get low level features like you do in Zig or in Go. If you want to have low level features that cross a C boundary, then you can't use C, you have to use assembly. Lower level languages or high level languages that have low level features like Zig and Go, and I'm not sure if Rust does or not, but yeah, Rust has got to have low level features at this point. But anyway, you get to write in your own language and you get the benefit of the assembly without having to write assembly. So anyway, ba 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 ba. All right, I told you about my biggest project, typer corrector. Okay, I have a little knowledge of what you're working on. Enough to ask questions. Okay, yeah. All right, well, I actually need to go. So I'll catch you around later. I'm actually starting to feel better now. In part, like having a high oxygen conversation where I'm actually breathing in, breathing out, and moving air a lot is helping. I think, but yeah, because I didn't actually fall asleep last night. I was awake all night long. Like I laid in bed and then I laid on the couch and I just couldn't dive into sleep. In part because I was so exhausted by the end of last week that I slept almost all day Sunday, and so then come Sunday night, couldn't sleep. What do you do? But yeah, I got to get going. I'm going to go ahead and pause the music, and let's see here. Yeah, I'm actually really happy with the progress today. The next step is going to be API stuff, maybe, because I need to be able to change all the options that I just changed here. All of those need to be changed via the API. What I think that's going to look like is rewriting the config file, validating the config file, and writing a new copy of it, and then starting a new copy of the server with the new config file while the old server winds down. And there's going to have to be a timeout on those connections that say something like 15 minutes or whatever, so that any of the stale connections, no new connections will be accepted on the old server. This is already built into this, but no new connections will be accepted. And as the old connections die off, then eventually it'll close. But the problem that we have is where it is not a HTTP connection, where it is something else like SSH will just stay open for days. And so we have to have some method by which we say, okay, if the connection didn't close itself and it's been longer than 15 minutes and it's not currently in the middle of transmitting data and it hasn't for at least 500 milliseconds or whatever, then close it out. So looks like we're getting some rando hits. I'm guessing. Let's see. Supported protos. What is HQ? I don't remember putting that in there. I think it was supposed to be H3. I think I had a typo. Let me go check that out real quick. Then I gotta go. Get going. HQ. Nope. H3. Weird. Yeah, here are the ones that I put in there. Hello. Supported protos. Oh. What is this? Get config for client. Client hello. Interesting. What is HQ? So we've got some client that is saying that it can do HQ, speedy, blah, 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 blah. That looks like some type of web browser, but I'm not sure what HQ is. I don't think that's in the list. Let me go ahead and run my little tool here. Go run command lpn get. We'll get the latest version here. And let me actually just move that into JSON new, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Is it any different? Indeed, it is different. Okay. Let's take a look. What's been added to IANA? Oh, they just updated some malformed text. Okay, great. Can't argue about that. Or maybe I updated the parser to avoid the malformed text. I actually don't know what's going on there. But if we go in here to lpn.json, oopsie daisies, that wasn't supposed to be there. Okay, good. So that's gone now. All right. And then is there an HQ? There is no registered HQ. So I don't know what to make of that. Is HQ this way? No, HQ. Huh, I wonder what kind of thing. Let's see, ALPN HQ. Ah, interesting. Interesting. So I'm guessing that they have not published the standard. It's not well defined enough for them to use H3, so they're using HQ as their internal. Probably their Chrome implementation is probably different from the RFC implementation. Likewise, their server implementation is different than the RFC implementation. So I think that Chrome, Google, has their own custom version of H3 that they call HQ. HTTP over quick. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, so my guess is that, yeah, this is probably, I mean, that's pretty old though, 2018. We're now in 2025, so that's, I don't know what to make of that, but I'm guessing it's just Google's internal version of H3. So, whatever. All right. Anyway, notice some TLS handshake failures and fallback routing. Are you rate limiting unauthenticated connections to avoid down service? And fallback routing. What do you mean fallback routing? Oh, okay. So no, it's not rate limiting, but the connections, it doesn't know whether a connection's authenticated or not. So what it is doing, so there's the happy path and then there's the slow path, right? So this is going to be a very hot piece of code because it's going to be routing lots and lots of connections. And so the happy path is that we get an exact match on a string on the first try. And the slow path is that we exhaustively check every permutation of supported protocols. So there's a couple of checks that happen up front that are the happy path. Like most clients that want to connect with H2 are going to want to connect to a server. And the way that it's actually going to work is that the server is really only going to support HTTP 1.1, and the reverse proxy that's going to be in front of that is going to be handling the translation between H2 and HTTP 1.1. So in many cases, I'm just reporting back HTTP 1. Well, if the server only supports HTTP 1.1, that's what I'm handling. Anyway, trying to think of a better way to explain this. If you actually have a web server like Caddy, for example, or Nginx, if you're more old school, then the web server itself is going to serve assets with HTTP 2. Or in some cases, I don't think anybody's really doing HTTP 3 yet, other than Google, which they've got their own version of it, apparently. Which is not surprising because they did that with H2 for a long time. But I mean, that's how the standard is created. Anyway, what was I going to say? So it's just doing the protocol negotiation, so it knows whether it's going to connect it to Postgres or to SSH or to a Samba file share or to web server, and whether it's decrypting at the TLS router layer, if it's terminating the TLS at that reverse proxy type of layer, or if it's going to be end-to-end encrypted with the final container and the thing on the outside. 9001 copy party. I have not. I'll take a look, but again, I do have to go here relatively soon. I'm taking a look right now. Oh, that looks cool. Portable file server with resumable uploads. I like the idea of that. What language is this written in? Please tell me it's Go. Because if it's Go, I can be happy. Codeberg. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. What the politics is going on? Isn't Codeberg one of those explicit, overt, like, we don't stand for this, we stand for that type of platforms? Okay, I get not using GitHub, but I think Codeberg, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Okay, where's the code? I see a Python file, I see a JSON file, I see, let's see, contrib, that's all just a bunch of random stuff. Okay, and here, oh, it's Python. That's going to be such a pain in the butt. That means you got to deploy it with Docker. No one's going to be able to run it. Oh, that makes me so sad. It makes me so sad. Because it sounds really, really cool. But I'm, like, realistically, the number of things I'm going to use that are Ruby or Python are very, very few and far between. Because reasons. Like, Go is what you should be using for network code. You should not be using Python for network code. Python is a children's toy for PhDs. And it's not, I mean, it's just old. It's just outdated, and it can't be fixed because it came from an era that was pre-internet. And all the networking stuff pre-internet, pre-CPU, multi-core CPU, you just can't fix it. It was a great language for what it was. It was very beautiful. It was well thought out. It's got great philosophy. It has inspired many other languages. Zig, Go, they take, I mean, their Go proverbs and the Zen of Zig are homages to Python, because Python has been so wonderful, but Python's got to die. You can't be writing a web server in Python. I mean, that's just silly. I mean, I guess if it's what you know, and it does look like there's a lot of features in here, but oh, that's just so sad. That's so sad that something new that actually is useful would be built in Python, where you just can't manage dependencies in any reasonable way, and it cannot be made to be performant. You could not put it in production unless you just wanted to spend a whole ton of money. But it looks so cool. Yeah. You think Go is waiting for the same? What do you mean? Go needs to have something like this? I mean, Go you don't need Docker for. I mean, as you see, it's just you copy over the binary, you're done. So I love Go. I think Go is, Go is the best language that we have. It's the best language that we have that's mature enough to use in production. I think to some degree Rust is, but it's not, it's just not all the way there. Anyway, I gotta go. Thanks for tuning in. I do not think that Go is on the way out. I just don't. We don't need Go 2. It has never been a better time to get into Go than now. I mean, we can have that debate later. I'd love to chat with you about that, but I don't see Go as on the way out. Literally every networking infrastructure program on the internet right now is written in Go. And it's just so easy, like you can be an idiot and you can learn Go and you can write programs that will beat out Rust programs. The Zig people, I think, are a little bit of a different type of people. I don't know if you'd write a Go program that would beat a Zig program, but you take your average Rust developer and your average Go developer and have them both write some code. The Go code's going to be faster because Go is tuned for the average. Whereas if you're going to be a Rust developer, you can't be average. You've got to be excellent, because if you're not excellent, then you're just going to make a lot of mistakes. Go goes for idiots. Go is just it's a great programming. Anyway, but I've said this all before. It kind of grew to its ceiling. I don't know. I don't see how Go would be good in 10 to 20 years. Well, I guess that depends. Is Zig going to get stable? If Zig gets stable, then I think that I would love to switch to Zig as my primary language. But Zig's got to get stable. Zig is really fixing all the problems that Go and Rust have, it seems. But I worry that complexity will enter the code base. I worry that they're searching for a different kind of perfection. And I'm worried where those trade-offs might lead. We've seen where the Go trade-offs have led, and it's to rock solid code that's easy to pick up and easy to write new things in. Like Go is great for APIs. That's what Go's great for, and with TinyGo, you can get CLIs in there as well. But again, I gotta go. So thanks for tuning in, and catch you later. Well, I think that Zig is relatively simple. So, I mean, we could get into that more later. But Zig is, I think, a very simple language, but it allows people to write low-level programs without having to go in assembly. It is the first low-level programming language. That's what I would say about Zig. So it gives you some power that a lot of people probably don't really want to see, but I think we'll see what happens. I think you can certainly write Zig in a way that might make Andrew Kelly cringe, but would make Go developers happy. Anyway, I'm out. Adios. Ba-ding!